I just bought my first van. It's a 2009 Chevy Express 2500. I have to redo the brakes, unfortunately, to get it registered and inspected. So this video is all going to be about doing brakes in your own van. So first thing you're going to need is the parts, obviously. So I'll show you what I need for my van, but you can mostly just go to any auto shop and tell them your make, model, and year, and they'll kind of look it up in their database and give you the parts you need. Okay, so we jacked it off and then put on blocks so we could take the jack away. And then you're going to take your bolts off the rim. This is PB Blaster, which helps loosen up the rusted bolts on the brakes. For this first bolt, we're using a 17mm box wrench. Sweet. So we just took off this upper bolt, and now we're going to do the same thing to this lower one right here. Now that we have both the bolts off, you can go ahead and wiggle this back. And once you get it off, you can just rest it right on the springs behind. If you're just changing your pads, this would basically be where you stop taking off bolts. And you'd go ahead and replace the pads down here and then just put this back on. But we're changing the rotor, so the next step would be to take off the next two bolts, which I'll show you on the... So you're gonna wanna take off this bolt, and then there's one directly below it. I can't really get on camera, but right there. And that'll take off this piece. The pack bolts have tended to be a lot tighter, so in this case I put on my wrench and then a breaker bar, which just gives me more force to take the bolt off. Nice. Then you're going to do the same thing for the bottom bolt. Probably going to need a breaker bar again. So once you get this off, you're going to want to take off both old pads, and if the pads you bought came with new hardware, you're going to clip it on. So now we have to take the old rotor off, and because it's the back brake, there's an emergency brake inside the drum, which makes it a little harder to slide off. I've been using a hammer to hit the exposed back part of the rotor, and that seemed to wiggle it off enough, or I could just take it off by hand. Before putting on the new rotor, I'm just going to clean the rust off here so it doesn't seize up, and then apply some grease. Now you're going to use some brake cleaner. Just spray it on. I'm just using some brake grease, painting it on here to keep the rotor from seizing to the plate. Before putting on the new rotor, make sure to spray both sides with your brake cleaner to remove any oil. So now you're going to take your caliper and put on the new sliders or use your old ones, depending on if you got these. Then you're going to look at which way the caliper goes in your wheel and make sure that the wear detector, I'll try to get on camera, the wear detector on the pad, that little tab, is at the bottom. My caliper goes on like this, and this wear detector is gonna stay at the bottom and slide on like that. This is what you end up with after putting them on. So for these bolts, which I don't think I said before, but the heads are 18mm on this van, I'm using blue thread locker. I was told to use it. I'm not totally sure if all brakes use it, so I would read up on what van you have. Just put like a little bit of thread locker on, and then you go ahead and take your whole setup, make sure it's oriented the right way, and then just slide it over. Line up your holes. Easier said than done. Like so. probably can't see. These back two bolts holding on the caliper for my van are supposed to be torqued to 221 pounds. I'm not totally sure. Like, if you don't have a torque wrench, it's kind of up to you. I'm using one just for peace of mind, and that's what I'm torquing it to. To get these pistons around the new pads, I'm using the old brake pad to clamp down the pistons so there's a bigger clearance. So then you're going to take the pistons, slide it over the pads, and align these top and bottom bolts.
Get up all the colors. Temperature's dropping. Is the socket enough?
That's basically it for changing your brakes on your van. I'm no mechanic, so if you're not confident, I wouldn't take my advice, and I would just go to a real mechanic. But overall, this is probably taking maybe 6 hours for all 4 wheels. Pump on the brakes to fill the brake lines and get pressure back. So that's it. I'm gonna start to actually build up the van soon, so stay tuned. Thanks for watching.